to the ABC Podcast.
Always be cool.
The show where your hosts, DC and BK, showcase your local business and real estate pros going gangbusters in leadership, community involvement, and just being cool.
Here are your hosts, serial entrepreneurs, mortgage experts at Summit Lending, and partners in crime, Darren Copeland and Bobby Kerr.
All right, everybody, it's the Always Be Cool podcast, hanging out with your hosts, Bobby Kerr, Darren Copeland.
What's up, everyone?
We are very, very excited today to have a very special guest, a warrior, an inspiration, and a hero to many across the country, Miss Sarah Nauser.
All right, everyone, here we go. Served 8 years on Rising Star in the KC Police Department. Started the very first day she was eligible after her 21st birthday. Huge Royals fan and calls Kauffman Stadium her happy place. In May of 2018, was diagnosed with ALS. She's a driving force behind a bill in Congress, Act for ALS. Helped develop Lou Gehrig Day at every MLB stadium. She is recognized by the Royals and Blue KC as a hero to this community. She's a relentless leader and supporter of the fight against ALS. All around awesome lady, Sarah Nauser. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Sarah?
I'm good. I'm so excited for the Royals season.
I know.
I
right?
obviously had the most amazing trip to Arizona for spring training. There aren't even words to describe how much fun that was.
Right. Did you just recently go in the past couple of weeks?
The very end of February.
Nice.
Yeah, you had all kinds of cool pictures on Facebook, and you were on the field with all the guys, and I believe, and maybe you can talk about it, but you got to share your story, kind of your testimony, and so maybe tell us what that experience was like, and for the people that haven't, and we'll get some backstory here in a minute too, but since we're on the subject, talk about your experience at spring training.
So Mike Sweetie and we talk probably couple times a week. We got a pretty special bond. And he was like, hey, can you get to the fields by 9:30 in the morning? Which I am not a morning person. But I was not about to tell him no. So we show up and he leads us back to the practice fields. The entire team is there. Wow. They're getting ready to do stretches and whatever to start the day. So he has them gather around home plate. Puts me right on home plate, tells them all about my story and my journey through being a police officer, now ALS, and meeting Lonnie and having Lonnie by my side through all this. And the guys were just so supportive. They clapped. They all were coming up to me and giving me hugs. And
oh, man.
it was really special. And then Mike turns to me and he goes, Sarah, do you have anything you want to say? And I'm like, I wasn't ready for this part.
Right.
But I just told them thanks for having me there. And then my message to them was to be resilient. Baseball seasons are long.
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't resilient 5 years into this battle, I don't know that I would still be here. That's how I live every day. Even though I might have a bad day, every day is a gift and tomorrow's a new day. So that's just kind of how I live my life. And so I try to portray that to them. And I think it was really a motivational couple seconds I talked to them, but they soaked in it and they loved it. So.
Oh, I bet they loved it, Sarah. I bet there wasn't probably many dry eyes by the end of that encounter with everyone.
I don't think so. There was not.
You said a very key word. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said it was really, really special. Because this year I really didn't know what to expect. A whole new coaching staff, all these players. Mm. Like in years past, I knew all the players, so it was different. But oh my gosh, they welcomed me with open arms. It was just unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah, it's special for sure. Well, you said a key word in there and caught my ear because the shirts that you've had made and that you're getting out to bring some awareness, the Fight Like a Girl on the logo on the front, but then on the back, I believe, doesn't it say the word resilient?
Yep. Yep.
So as you're talking to the team about a long season for the Royals and for any baseball club, that's a key word that you can speak to with a lot of experience. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that was their idea. That was the team's idea. After practice that day, they were in the locker room, and Coach Q was talking to everybody, and that's the idea that they came up with that day. So I made it come to life, and now they're going to be wearing those shirts.
Awesome.
That's phenomenal, Sarah. And we know Mike Sweeney from our experiences with the Royals and fantasy camp, and we were blessed enough to have Mike as a coach a couple of times. But he's one of the best human beings around. So, not a surprise that he was right there by your side and making sure that he gathered the players around everyone and heard a few words of wisdom from you on resiliency, and just the attitude that you have is just amazing.
Yeah, Mike is probably the most genuine, amazing person I've ever met in my life, and to now have the friendship that we have is just, it's crazy. Like, I was one of those kids chasing autographs when I was just little, and now he calls me his little sister and tells me he loves me. Like, it's full circle, and it's crazy, but I'm so blessed.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, let's take a step back, Sarah, and let's, I know you knew at an early age that you wanted to be a police officer. So how did that come about? When you're age 14 or 15 years old, when you really knew that you wanted to become a police officer, was that something that started early on in your career at school?
Yeah, I was around the officers at school, kind of getting a feel for what their job was like, ask questions here and there. I actually started working at the age of 15, and it was at Pizza Street. Well, all the officers came in there, and they all came in there to eat lunch or dinner or whatever. So I kind of picked their brains and asked them about the job, and that's how I got my foot in the door. I started doing ride-alongs with Blue Springs Police Department.
Okay.
And I was hooked right off the bat.
Wow.
After that, I never had a second doubt. That's what I wanted to do. So I became a police explorer. I think I was 15 when I started that. And I did that all the way through college, as I was doing security as well at Powered Light.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working with Kansas City officers there. So my entire life revolved around law enforcement, essentially. I mean, I was all in, and it was great. I loved it. I wouldn't change it for anything.
And you said, I've read something where you said your ultimate goal was essentially to be a police officer and work the dugout at Kauffman Stadium. And so you were able to do that, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I was 16 when I said that. Wow. That was my dream. And it came to a reality I was 30. That was my last day in uniform.
Right.
So, and I was exhausted because I had been on I think I had been on 3 trips back to back to back.
Uh-huh.
And so I had just got home, had to get everything together to get to the game. And that's also the night that I met George Brett.
Wow.
Yeah. And our friendship from there has been just unbelievable. But yeah, that was an incredibly special night.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, but didn't George tell you that he was going to, made a promise to you that he was going to be along your side during your fight with this?
Yes, he did. I gave him a bracelet, the red Sarah Soldiers bracelet. I gave him that back in July of 2018. He wore that little red bracelet for over 3 years until it snapped.
Are you serious?
It was in political commercials. It was in every commercial he did. Like,
wow.
To me, that was big because that's awareness. I mean, George Brett's the biggest person in Kansas City.
Right. Yep.
So if somebody sees that bracelet on his wrist, they're going to look into it. They're going to ask questions. And that's putting ALS out there. So that was important to me. I thought it was so cool.
Very special.
Absolutely. I mean, here you have a Hall of Famer, Sarah, that's walking around 3 years with that red armband and just promoting, like you said, the awareness of ALS. That's amazing.
Maybe let's talk about it for a little bit. So maybe tell the people that are listening to this and watching this, talk about your journey. For those of us that are listening that aren't aware that Sarah is, she does have ALS, like Darren said in the intro, Lou Gehrig's disease. So talk to us about your journey, how things came about, how you came to know that you were going to be fighting through this, and kind of your journey that you still are on today.
So when I was 29 years old, I was just losing weight like nobody's business. And I had no answers for it. I was still trying to work out, but that wasn't going well. I couldn't do like a simple sit-up, for example, or a squat because my back was so weak. It would almost be like a humpback. So I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. So in October of 2017, I went to a doctor to try to get some answers. And all she chalked it up to is stress.
Wow.
She's like, you're just stressed. That's all it is. And also at this point, I had what's called fasciculations. It's a long, drawn-out word for just muscle twitches. Like my muscles twitched so bad you could see it through my jeans, my uniform pants. I mean, it was bad. The more active I was, the worse those twitches and spasms were. It just wasn't normal. And I was like, maybe it's the energy drinks. So I tried to stop those. Just tried to cut out a lot of bad stuff in my life because obviously I was a bodybuilder at one point in time. So I know a little bit about dieting here and there.
Yeah.
And so I was just trying to clean things up and nothing was working. So in February of 2018, I'm very stubborn. And I was trying to go up a flight of stairs. I had a laundry basket in my hand, and I was going to prove to myself that I could walk up these stairs and not use the handrail. Well, I made it up probably 4 or 5 steps, fell backwards, landed on my head, passed out. Huge gash in my head, and I had to have 13 stitches. So I knew it was time to get some answers, and I was so far progressed that where most people take years to get a diagnosis, I started my process in February, and I had my final diagnosis by May.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That's
So
super fast.
it was fast, yeah. Because a lot of people, they'll go through multiple surgeries because there is no test that could say you have ALS. So being 29 and getting diagnosed with ALS, I was considered in the 1% group because of my age.
Wow.
Well, now 5 years later to still be here, that's about a 10% group of us that make it to see 5 years after a diagnosis.
Wow.
Now, on top of that, there is less than 5% of us that get to retain our voice. So I'm like the unicorn of ALS.
Wow.
Right.
You really are
Right.
a fighter, like I think it's pretty fitting that the group of people that support you and follow you, the hashtag Sarah's Soldiers is very fitting.
Yeah, I'm so fortunate to have the people that I do and the way that we make this work on a daily basis. I mean, I'm so blessed compared to the way it could be going for other people. Like, I see how other people have to manage this disease, and it's just not fair. It's really not. But You could be upset about it, or you could choose to live your life and make the best of it. That's how I live my life.
Yeah, your attitude and your outlook, Sarah, is just second to none. It's amazing. In fact, I'd like to read something from one of our mutual friends to name drop. We kind of talked about this before the show with Mr. David Conchola. And, Casey Mo great as well, just like you, Sarah. And so here's what David had to say when he texted me this morning. He said, "Please say hello to Sarah. And when it comes to fighting heroes, she is mine."
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
So he wanted to send much love your way. And like immediately I hit him up this morning and I said, "Hey man, good morning. Do you happen to know Sarah?" And it was like within 15 seconds. And he had texted over this line that he wanted me to read to you, along with a picture of Mr. Tommy Woods as well. It looked like it was a few years ago that you guys were having a good time by a pool somewhere, but no.
That's at Jeff Montgomery's house.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
yep,
Monty.
Yep.
He's a good one too.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, he is.
Yes, we love us some Jeff. He's been on the show as well. Yeah,
absolutely.
We'll have to tell him that you said hello next time. We'll say him. Heck, you never know. We might see him around the stadium here in the next few days.
He's the one that started all this with me getting so involved with the Royals, actually.
Really? Well, tell that story. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So the picture that Dave sent you, that was a charity, I guess, experience that Tommy Woods been on for, is it Diamond of Dreams or
Yeah.
Diamond of, okay. So that's how they won that. They invited me to come out there. So I'm kind of shy when I don't know people. I know that's probably hard to believe now, all the stuff I've done. But,
Right.
but back then I was fairly reserved and quiet. And so we're back out by the pool talking, and Tommy's kind of telling my story and how he met me and about working in the dugout. And Jeff was like, "We got to have you on the show." He said, "You got to be on the pregame show." And so he set it all up while George was working on setting up the first pitch. And so the same day that I threw out the first pitch, I was on the pregame show, and it just took off from there. I mean, I've been on their show now like probably at least 4 or 5 different times.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, it was cool.
That's fantastic.
Well, I think, we have people that don't live in Kansas City that listen to the show, right? It's not just all Kansas City people. And I think what's important for people to understand is that organizations like the Royals, but the Royals in particular, do a really special job of things like this, involving you, bringing awareness to things. I've got a lifelong friend, John Ratzenberger, whose wife had stage 4 lung cancer, was very involved with longevity, and the Royals did a lot with her. And it's just really special that they've done some great things to bring awareness for you, but for the entire world, to bring awareness to ALS. So I just think that's phenomenal that Jeff and George and Mike and all these guys have been so involved.
And I mean, even Salvador Perez.
Yeah.
Last year I got to give him the Lou Gehrig Award. And he got that for all of his support that he does for me. I made sure that he got nominated for it. And I didn't get to vote on it, but I was sure encouraging the votes for Salvi. And so George called me one morning and he's like, "Got some good news for you." I was like, "What's that?" And he goes, "Your favorite Royals player got the Lou Gehrig Award."
Wow.
Oh, no way. How awesome is that?
George is jealous of Salvi because he thinks I like Salvi more than him.
That's amazing. That's amazing, because that doesn't happen very often, does it, when someone might like someone else other than George Brett, right?
Oh, my gosh.
No, so we're at spring training, and George was so he was at the hospital the first day I was out there because his son was sick.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't get to see him, but he was going to be out there the next day, so I was supposed to text him. So we get back to the hotel that night, and I text George, and like, "What time do you want me to be there tomorrow?" And he goes, Well, Sarah, I don't know. What time does Salvi want you to be there tomorrow?
That's amazing.
Little jelly, I think George was.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my
It's funny.
gosh.
That's hilarious.
That's
yeah,
great.
it's pretty funny.
That is amazing.
So ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, amyotrophic, is that correct one? Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Yep, you did good.
Thank you. I did my research.
Good job.
And you said some stats earlier, so I think it's important for our listeners to kind of wrap their head around the numbers that you said and some other things. So yearly, 5,600 people-ish diagnosed in the U.S. each year. It affects the function of the nerves and muscles. And I think this was the thing that caught my attention, that only about 5 to 10% of people with ALS inherit it, essentially, from someone else in the family. So in most cases, the person with it is the only family member.
Just random.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it's called familial ALS, and it affects a gene. It's called the SOD1 gene. And there's actually a treatment that the FDA is currently considering for approval that's helped those people tremendously. Now that won't work for somebody like me when mine's got no genetic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the gene. I guess you'd call it. I don't have the trait for that gene, but for them, that's huge. There was a guy that's I think he's the general manager for the Flames, the NHL team, the hockey team.
Hockey team, yeah.
Okay.
So he's got that gene, and he's been on this drug called Torpsin, and he was given 6 months to live. We're 5.5 years later.
Oh my gosh.
And he's still walking. Like,
wow.
He can't talk, he can't eat, but I mean, he's getting to watch his kids grow up.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge when you're only given months to live.
Right.
And you get to be around for stuff like that. I mean, it's unbelievable.
So does it just affect different people differently? Like he's walking around, but he can't eat or speak. You know, you're not walking around, but you can eat and speak, correct?
Correct. So there is also 2 different forms called sporadic, which is what I have, and bulbar, which is what he has. So in bulbar, it affects your mouth first.
Mm-hmm.
Sporadic, it affects a lid first. So like mine was my left foot, which I couldn't have told you it was my left foot until they did the testing and stuff, but that's where the weakness started for me.
Interesting.
And then it just travels to other limbs. But people that start with bulbar, they lose their voice pretty early on and their ability to eat. But there are no 2 people you're going to find that with this disease progress the same. And I think that's what's so hard about it, because we're all so much different that they cannot pinpoint exactly what is causing it all. Like they contribute some of it to physical stress on the body. So was it my job? Was it my bodybuilding that I did? I mean, there's no telling because there's just not enough known about it yet. So
Sarah, like recently after you retired, didn't you make a trip to China for a couple of weeks to do some treatments over there? Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a stem cell treatment. And prior to that, I went to D.C. because President Trump had signed in the right to try. There's this stem cell treatment out there called Neuron that, without going into too much of it, there is a Navy fighter pilot that was wheelchair bound for 2 years. After he got these treatments, he was able to stand up out of his wheelchair.
Wow.
And not only that, but he was using a breathing machine like mine. It got him off his breathing machine. it's still to this day he can stand.
That's
And
incredible.
he's not using his machine. So it obviously works. So
Right.
I went there to try to get the right to try and ask why is this not working for everybody? I mean, put a price on it, tell us what it is.
Right.
And I actually got to meet with the CEO of the company because George wrote a letter to support me. Savvy wrote a letter to support me. Just what do we have to do so Sarah can try this, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to the CEO, and unfortunately, he wouldn't put a price on it and wouldn't make it available through the right to try because the right to try puts it back in the pharmaceutical company's hands.
Mm.
And he felt like he had too much to lose at that point. Just by chance, if something were to happen to me, he felt like that everything could go downhill.
So
Which-
where? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Which I don't know that. I just don't think there was enough of the right to try to make it work the way that they anticipated it would. And so that's why I went to China, because I could not get, they wouldn't budge. I mean, I don't know who else I could have talked to. I was with the CEO of the company that made it, and
Right.
they just weren't willing to put a price on it or anything. So China was the next best thing, which I don't believe anybody in America should have to travel to a country like China to get basically just a chance to survive.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my only option. And it was 3 treatments while I was there. It was like I was there for a little over 2 weeks. And I actually regained some function. Like I was able to feed myself a sub sandwich while we were there, which I hadn't done in months. So
Wow.
that's unheard of with ALS.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, long term, I'm obviously not doing that now, but that was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's what slowed down my disease.
Mm-hmm.
There's no telling, but these last, every bit of 2 years, I really haven't progressed any, which is huge.
That's phenomenal.
Wow. Well, and the gentleman that you mentioned that after the treatments, he was able to walk again and not have to use his tube. Have you kept up with his story? I mean, has he been able to continue treatments and then it's reversed for him, or what's the outlook on the treatment today?
So they did what's called EAP, which is Expanded Access Program. And they gave that to, I believe, 7 different patients. And they gave them an extra 6 doses. And I happen to know at least 5 of those people, because that trial it still is not unblinded yet. So the actual trial participants don't know what they received, but the people that were in this expanded access program 100% know what they received. All of them improved.
Hmm.
And even there was one lady, her name is Sandy. She was really far progressed. I would say she was on a ventilator like I am. She had 0 movement, whereas I could still wiggle my toes and my fingers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She had no movement, but she was getting these treatments and she was getting her movement back. She could eat again. It was, I mean, meaningful things that these people were getting back. And if it wasn't reversing stuff for them, at least it was giving them more time with their family.
Right.
So now, yesterday, we just found out, because over 2 years ago, the FDA declined to approve this drug. So it's been a battle ever since. It's politics, the whole 9 yards. It's
Mm-hmm.
because this is not an American-based company that came up with this.
Gotcha.
The CEO is from Israel. So it's really hard to deal with the politics of all of it. Because when you can see these videos and see these people improve, everybody deserves the same chance. We have nothing to lose.
Is this drug available readily in
Nope.
parts of Europe?
Nope. Because he hasn't. He is so focused on getting it approved in America that he hasn't taken it anywhere else yet. So what got approved yesterday is called an advisory committee. So the FDA is going to hold a meeting with a panel of doctors that basically have no iron in the fire. They're just going to look at the data. They're going to hear from patients' testimonies. They're going to look at all the trial data. And then from there, they're going to make a vote on what they believe, whether it should be approved or not. Then that all goes back to the FDA. The FDA looks at it and they decide if they're going to approve it or not. So it's a long, drawn out process. I never thought it would take this long. Because 5 years ago, when I got diagnosed, so did my friend Thurman. And we were in ABC Nightline together.
Oh, wow.
We were diagnosed 11 days apart. Thurman's only a couple years older than I am. He is still walking, talking, living almost a completely normal life because he was in this trial.
I mean,
That's just the frustration. I mean, it's just, Bobby and I, obviously we're not exposed to this on the daily, but just to hear things like that, Sarah, that, there's an outlet or a possible, solution, but, it's just tied up. It's just mind boggling.
It just doesn't seem fair.
No, because it's not.
No, it's inhumane. I mean,
Right.
This is supposed to be the best country there is, and people come here chasing the American dream, and we can't even get an effective treatment for a terminal illness.
Do you really think it's because it was not a non-American doctor or company that came up with it, and that's what's blocking it from being readily accessible?
I think that's a lot of it.
Wow.
To be honest, I mean, they don't want, because this is the best thing, arguably, that ALS has ever seen. So they don't want somebody from another country to get that credit.
Right. Man.
That's the way I see it from outside looking in. That's what it seems like.
So if there's somebody who, like, for instance, we're both from Blue Springs. We both grew up in Blue Springs. I've got a buddy and his family that I know pretty well. I don't know if you're familiar with the Caponetto family.
I worked with his sister.
Okay.
Growing up at Pizza Street.
Okay.
Nice.
So obviously Ross is suffering from ALS and his wife, Melissa, and they have a family, and they're, if they're going through their struggles, how, if they wanted to look at these types of treatments, like you said, to go to China or Israel, like, that just is so daunting, but is something like that, how does a person that's suffering from ALS go to China to get treatment?
Well, right now, I don't know what that would look like because of COVID. Like, we made it out of, when I went there, we made it out of that country. I think it was within 12 days of getting shut down.
Wow.
Like, we were,
gosh,
it was so close.
Yeah.
The person that they consider patient zero landed at SeaTac Airport the same day at the same time that we did.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know that the risk right now would be worth it.
Right.
Sure.
To go to a place like China. But with this advisory committee happening, for somebody like Ross, if Neuron could get approved in the state that he's at, if nothing else, if it could make him just stabilize where he's at and not get any worse, he can live a great life just the way he is, just as anybody that's newly diagnosed. And they don't know that because they haven't given it a chance.
Right. Man,
Because if they could get this in bodies of people that are just receiving a diagnosis and it stabilizes them for however many years, it's basically like, it's like chemo is to cancer. It's a stem cell treatment. It's a bone marrow aspiration that they take that out, and then they basically clean up the cells. They harvest the cells, and then they put them back in with this neuron that they've come up with. And it's working for people that are so far progressed. Just imagine what that would do for somebody that's
newly
progressed. I mean, he could be here to see his kids graduate. He's got kids so little, like, they deserve a chance.
Yeah, everyone does, because it's obviously something's there. It's available. And what you said in the very beginning, like, just put a price tag on it, just do something, label it so that people at least have an idea, have goals to be able to get access to it. And that's the shame here for sure.
Right. And so, you're such a blessing to be like, a lead spokesperson to get the word out there for everyone, because without people like you, this stuff would linger on for years and years. And, hopefully everything you're doing is speeding up the process for, those who are going to have it, get diagnosed with in the future.
Yeah, because if it's not going to save my life, as long as it changes the trajectory of this illness, then I did what I set out to do. That's what I wanted to do when I got diagnosed. That's the promise I made to myself, is to be here for other families that face this disease and were up against this disease, because I didn't have anybody to turn to, really. And the doctors, it's so discouraging, because all they tell you is get your affairs in order and prepare to die.
God.
I mean, I'm 29 years old. I'm not going to let a disease just take me like that. That's never been who I am. It's never going to be who I am.
Yeah,
and they don't know that because they don't know who I am. But that's what these people are being told when they go to the doctor. And it's not fair. I mean, they need somebody that they can, like I told Melissa, I said, this disease is horrible. The diagnosis is life-changing. But what you need to realize is that life is still possible. Because so many people think that life is just over, and it's not. I've lived more life in these last 5 years than I ever did before.
Right. And I think a lot of that probably has to do with your attitude and your readiness to fight this. I can see a lot of people get diagnosed. They probably just throw up their hands or just succumb to it. But clearly you are a massive fighter, and again, just blazing the trail for futures to come. So, we're talking about politics and legislators. So I'd like for you to touch base on, because I saw here that you got one of the very few bills passed unanimously in the Senate, which never happens, right? So
No.
why don't you talk a little bit about the Lou Gehrig, and getting that approved, and MLB Day and all that fun stuff. So kind of take us through that journey.
So Act for ALS is the bill that got approved, and that provided millions and millions of dollars for these expanded access programs. Because for somebody like me, when I was diagnosed, I was, like I said, so far progressed that my breathing was so bad when I was diagnosed, I automatically did not qualify for any trials. I mean, there was absolutely nothing that I could participate in. So that's a blow in itself right there. But through these expanded access programs now, for different drugs that are in trials, as long as they're in a phase 3 trial and it's proven safe, people like me that could not try it are going to be able to access the drug outside of the trial because of the funding that got approved with that bill.
Can I ask a quick question? Do people are they not allowed to start the trial like you because you're so far progressed because the development companies, the developing companies are afraid that the trial won't have any positive effects, so therefore it will negatively affect their numbers of...
Correct.
Am I okay?
Yep.
Wow. So let's hold it back from people that really need it because it's going to make the publicity bad on our end result numbers of how many people we've been able to help.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then, like I told you off the beat, like some people take years to get diagnosed. Well, if your first symptom is within 2 years of your diagnosis, you don't stand a chance to participate in trials just because of the years that you've had the disease. Because if you've had the disease over 2 years, you're automatically disqualified from trials.
Man, that's unbelievable. So just so our listeners get this straight. So if you get diagnosed and they think that you've had it for 2 years, you're pretty much automatically off the list of getting any type of helpful treatment.
Yes. Until this act got approved now.
Right.
Hopeful, like as long as the hospital participates in it, which KU is a whole other story. But that's why I encourage people like Melissa to go out to Boston. Boston is like the Mecca Center for ALS.
Yeah, okay.
Interesting.
They're the best place you could go for ALS.
Okay.
And
is there a specific hospital?
UMass.
UMass.
And the Haley Center is what it's called.
The Haley Center?
Yep.
Cool.
But yeah, they are, and I think that's because of the Pete Frates who started the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where he got all his care at. There's a doctor out there that she's unbelievable. And they were one of the trial sites for Neuron, and she saw what it did for these patients, and she's been a huge advocate for all of us, but they are the best of the best out there.
Cool.
That's
you mentioned the Ice Bucket Challenge, right? I think we all remember that, and there was like this craze. If I remember correctly, it was like May, right? We're coming up on ALS Awareness Month, so that's perfect time. But it was May of like 2013, 2014.
14, I think.
14, yeah. It was when it was, very, very prominent. And so you mentioned the gentleman that started it, but just from that kind of wave across, and this is when social media actually helps things, right? And it brings awareness to people that otherwise have no idea or no schema of something that's going on for so many. So if I read a number correctly, like it was over $220 million were raised just through this one initiative of the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Wow.
I mean, I did it a couple of times. I was teaching middle school back then. Of course, so kids, anytime you can do something to your teacher, it was great. But to raise so much money is such an incredible thing. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how that money that was raised actually positively impacted people with ALS?
So it's got a lot of drugs started in trials. There's more drugs in trials, and there's more research being done now than ever was before. I mean, that was earth-shattering for ALS because there was just no funding for ALS. So that's been huge as far as just getting things started to see what could possibly help this disease, what's causing this disease. Because until you know what's causing it, you're never going to cure it.
Right.
And so it's getting more people involved. Because the biggest deal with ALS is, sadly enough, there's not enough money in it. So these big pharmaceutical companies, they don't participate in it. You don't have people like Pfizer and stuff jumping in to help because there's not enough money in it for them. It's a revolving door. Somebody's diagnosed every 90 minutes and somebody dies every 90 minutes. So these patients are just in and out, you know? I mean, so they don't see the benefit in it for them. So until we can get these big scientists on board, that's when it's going to be hard. But now with Act for ALS and with the money that was raised back with the Ice Bucket Challenge, some of that money's still sitting there.
Really?
Yeah, they still have like $100 million that's still sitting there.
Wow.
Which
How
is
can-
unfortunate. I wish they would push it out, but that's their business, and it doesn't directly, like, people with ALS aren't as fortunate as I am. I've had the police department rally around me. I've had more support than anybody. Like, I get to live in this nice house. I have all the equipment that I need. Other people aren't that lucky.
Right.
That's what I wish organizations like that have all that money in the bank would step in and help these people, because until you have the supplies that you need to live with this disease, it doesn't seem possible. Like the computer that I'm using to do this call, it's just an iPad, but it tracks my eyes. It's over $20,000.
Wow.
Just for your computer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I can hardly operate my cheap one, Sarah.
Yeah. Right?
Seriously.
And then I've got it down because this is all I have. So
when you say it
I'm writing a
tracks,
book with it.
Yeah, let's
when it
talk
tracks
about that.
your eyes, is that for reading purposes? So because you're not using your hands to move the screen around?
Yeah, so it's got a bar. It's got a bar down on the bottom, and it tracks your pupils with infrared technology.
Okay.
And so there's a pointer or a cursor that goes on the screen that just tracks my eyes. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Are there?
And so
go ahead. I'm sorry.
everything you would do on an iPad, I can do on this iPad. I control my house. I can control everything.
Can you really? So, like, if you want to go shopping on Amazon, you literally can just.
Oh, it's dangerous.
She said, "Oh."
Did you have to hide the Amazon boxes in the background just so we wouldn't judge?
Yes. Yes.
What other type?
This house.
What other things in your life? Like, that's something like a whole avenue of a conversation, right? To
absolutely.
say, I have a $20,000 iPad that I can read. I mean, you're like, you're doing magic, right? You're controlling the temperature of your house with your eyes. So, like, what other things in your life have you had to adapt to? What other types of technology help you and your family to be able to function as great as you do and be able to, just enlighten all of us if you could.
So this thing is like magic. But like the trip to Arizona, I got to make all the arrangements. I get to text back and forth with Sweetie and George Brett.
Yeah.
I get to make the hotel reservations and talk to Davy and get all the tickets squared away. And I mean, I make all the reservations. Like, Lottie is the physical part of this house, but I'm still the boss.
Oh, we can see that. We can see that all
Well, yeah,
day
you
long.
control things with your eyes. Who wouldn't make you the boss?
Yes.
I order the groceries. Like, I can control all the TVs. I turn lights on and off. I can unlock the front door.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm writing my own book with my eyes.
Are you writing a book really right now?
Yep.
Wow.
That's fantastic. So what's your title of it, Sarah?
That's a good question. Got any recommendations? I haven't named it yet.
We'll chew
think
on
about
it
that.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how about this? There was a quote that you said at spring training this year. Maybe that's the quote. Maybe that's the title of your book. It says, "What living the dream looks like."
That's exactly it.
You said that, and that stuck out to me because here's someone that has the opportunity to essentially to take self-pity, right? Feel sorry for yourself, but instead you say something like, this is what living the dream looks like. And I think that's so impactful.
Well, in fact, I'd like to read something real quick from Royals broadcaster Joel Goldberg, who has also been on the show as well. So
that's my dude.
Right? He loves you. And he says this, and I think everyone's going to enjoy this. He goes, I work every day with two of the most upbeat human beings in the world, Salvador Perez and Rex Hudler. The only person I know that is more positive than Salvi or Hud is Sarah. She's using this awful disease to make people's lives better and brighter every single day. She's truly a unique gift, and I'm grateful to call her a friend. How amazing is that?
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
He's a special guy.
Yeah, he is.
And our friendship has been something I really cherish. And now it's not just him. I talked to his wife. I talked to his kids. Like Mason sent me a picture yesterday. He's got my Sarah Soldier shirt on, flexing it in the mirror.
Nice.
And he's so excited.
Yes.
Like, it's just these relationships that I've built that, because, self-pity is easy. Like,
Sure.
I could have crawled in a hole and let this disease just take me over. And I refuse to let that happen. And never in my wildest dreams would I imagine that it would take me on a journey that it has. But it's been unbelievable. And I've met some of the most amazing, influential people along the way that if I did curl up in a ball, I think people would have understood it. But I would have never had these opportunities that I've had.
Absolutely. And, the great thing is, Sarah, is to see organizations such as the KCMO Police Department and also the Kansas City Royals, that we all have, a mutual love for the Royals, to get behind you. And, a thought that came in my head is, it sounds like you really like going to Arizona. And I really think you should talk to George Brett and Mike Sweeney about coming down in November to fantasy camp and speaking to the 100 guys that, go down for a week, just to hear your story and talk about 100 guys that would absolutely love to love on you. I mean, it
would all cry like babies.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So definitely start laying the groundwork for that, and we'll start saying that as well, because I always have a guest speaker.
Great idea.
They always have a guest speaker come in, and
that would be awesome.
Are you? Do you know Les Norman at all?
I sure do.
I thought so. I had breakfast with him last week, and you've come up a couple of times, but he might be someone too that to talk to about the fantasy camp coming in. I think that's a really good idea, DC.
Yeah, there would be no one else better than her to have come down. And plus, it would be an opportunity for you to meet some awesome guys. They're not quite as awesome as Bobby and I, but they're pretty dang cool. But
I've got to know a few of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just from social media. It's like,
oh yeah,
my Twitter page is taken off.
Yes, it has. You tweeted something yesterday. I think it had like 400 likes, and I'm like, damn, I've never had 400 likes on Twitter.
Right.
It's like, go get it, Sarah.
So a post I made, I think it was right after Arizona. The MLB, Bobby Witt retweeted it.
Yes, I saw
and
that.
Then the MLB retweeted it. And by the end of it, it had like 2 million views. I was like,
good night.
Wow.
what is this? Like, no, it was crazy.
Wow. You went
And so I
viral.
made a post on Facebook. I was like, Mama, I made it to the big leagues.
Yeah, I saw that. Here we are. Sarah, the bottom line is you've created a platform. And instead of retreating, like you said, instead of crawling up in a ball like you could have, and no one would have ever blamed you, no one would have ever been upset about it, you've taken this platform to use for good and to inspire many others. DC had some phenomenal quotes. Here are some people that aren't necessarily tied to the Royals, but just random comments that I saw on Facebook today. She's one of the strongest, most positive people I have ever met. She's our hero. Absolutely amazing. One of the most amazing people in the world. She's an inspiration for us all. I mean, your heart must be so full knowing that people look at you as an inspiration and the love that you share, the love in 55 minutes here with us that we feel by talking to you. You know, I want to run through a brick wall for you.
Right.
Right. And so that's such kudos to you for being able to just share this light with so many and turn such what could be an awful situation, all things, and to turn it into a positive for so many others and be a light. So it's just great job.
Exactly. We can.
That's what ignites my fire.
Yeah.
It's what keeps me going, because I know that I'm still making a difference in this world. Because, you know, that was the hardest part for me when I could no longer be a police officer. Like, where's my purpose from here? And now to just hear the things that people think about me and the positive impact that I'm having on the world. That's my new purpose. Like, that's what I wake up and I get to make a difference in this world. I get to be the change in this world that's, let's be honest, it's a dark place. And just a kind tweet or a kind message, you never know how far that's going to take somebody
Oh yeah.
on like a bad day. So it means a lot to me.
Well, you know, and Sarah, the world is definitely a better place with you in it. You know, Bobby and I, you know, we can feel the love, and I know there's nothing that, if there's anything that we could ever do for you, we would absolutely do in a heartbeat. And man, we really hope to see you in a Royals game sometime in the near future. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very good.
We didn't get to talk about Lou Gehrig Day yet.
Well, let's
do
talk
it.
about it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So tell us how. Yeah. Go ahead. You've got the floor.
Yeah.
You guys got to come out to that this year. It's huge. It's also the same night as Big Slick.
Oh my gosh.
A lot going on.
Here we go.
Yeah. So it all came about, it's been 4 years ago now. Just a friend of mine that had ALS that got diagnosed right around the same time as I did sent a tweet out to probably 5 of us. And he's like, how do we make this possible? There's a Jackie Robinson Day, a Robert Clemente Day. Lou Gehrig deserves his own day. So we had these meetings back and forth for a year and a half, 2 years. We talked every Friday. Like, what's the best plan of attack? We had to deal with COVID. So that was a mess in itself. And finally, before the 2021 season, it started with the Arizona Diamondbacks GM. He sent out a message to all the other GMs. All the teams were on board. We got the league on board, and they agreed to do the first ever inaugural Lou Gehrig Day. And it's been incredible ever since. And like I said, when I got diagnosed, my goal was to raise awareness for this disease. Well, what a better way to do it than honor the person that is the namesake for this disease and raise that awareness for people that likely have never heard of what ALS is. And so it was an opportunity to share other people's stories and get the word out. And it's been really special. And that's a group that we still talk to today. And there's baseball players that are on the board that their families have been impacted by ALS, and like Sam Hilliard. I don't know if you've heard that name.
Sam Hoyer.
Hilliard.
Hilliard.
He was with the Rockies, and he just got signed by the Braves this offseason.
Okay.
But he's going to be their outfielder, and he's coming to town April 16th, 14th through the 16th.
Yep, that's when they're.
And so I'm going to get to go down there and meet him face to face. But he lost his dad to ALS. So it's this really small but incredibly impactful group of us that put all this together, and just to see what has come of it is truly incredible.
What day is Lou Gehrig? We're going to ask the same question.
Same thing.
What day is it?
June 2nd.
June 2nd.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
And I've been lucky. The Royals have had a home game all 3 seasons.
Wow.
And they've spoiled me rotten. So
That's
You deserve
fantastic.
But it's been good. I've got to host other families that have ALS that haven't had the same opportunities that I've had, and so I get to bring them up to the suites, and it's a night that those people are going to treasure forever. I mean, so it's special to be able to get back some of all the things that I'm so fortunate to be a part of.
That's fantastic. So, well, you just need to tell the Royals and the schedule makers to make sure that every single day that the Royals have a homestand when Lou Gehrig Day comes around every year.
Everybody was amazed at how well the Royals took it all in and all the awareness that they did. Everybody on the board is jealous of me.
I bet.
Right. Do you rub it in just a little bit?
Well, I don't have to. They're like, so they see the pictures from Arizona the past couple of years, and they're like, so when are the Royals just going to add you to the payroll?
Right.
Like,
Hashtag goals.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Oh my gosh.
That's when you sent George Brett a text and said, Salvi just said I got added to the payroll. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, Sarah, do you have a tournament? Is there something else that helps? Can you talk about that for a second?
Yes, we host a golf tournament every year. It's a little wild, a little crazy, but it's a lot of fun. It's always around my birthday. This year it's going to be September 14th down at Winterstone Golf Course.
Oh, in Independence, yeah.
Yep. But George comes out and plays in it. Last year, George got put in handcuffs. He thought it was hilarious.
By choice or by...
By choice.
Nice.
It was hilarious. It was so much fun. We always have a good time. So, but Fitzy, Al Fitzmaurice comes out.
He's a good friend of ours. He's been on the show too.
Les has come out and played in it. Willie Wilson, John Mayberry.
Yeah.
Oh, John's one of our favorites. He's quite the storyteller, right? Isn't he amazing?
And have you met his wife?
I have not.
One
Oh
time.
my gosh.
Yeah, she's a hoot.
She is the sweetest woman ever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they all come out and play. And 2 years ago, Whit Merrifield brought a team out to play, and then this year they're all ready to come out and play because they all want to beat George Brett. Because George is bragging about that he wins it every year. So
well, he's pretty dang good.
Yeah,
he's legit. He when you're club champion at Mission Hills, you're pretty good.
You got it together.
But he cheats. He plays from the old man tee box. I said that's not allowed. That's not allowed.
It's amazing.
Right.
So how can people, is it invite only or can the public sign up?
The public can sign up. I'll put all the registration stuff up through social media real soon, but it definitely fills up fast. It sells out every year. But it's just a great group of people. It's my favorite day of the year.
I bet.
That would be
just because of the support, and you see people, like some people are complete strangers that show up and they let me know how I've made an impact on their life and that they come out there and support me. It just means so much to me.
Absolutely.
So it's really cool.
That's fantastic. Sarah, is there any other, days of, events or anything else that you like to put out there for anyone who's listening?
I don't think so. I think those are the biggest. And the golf tournament is huge.
Yeah. Yep. I know that you have like a dedicated page on the IamALS.org website. Do you have a specific URL or domain or site that is specific to you?
Just all my Sarah Nauser pages.
The social media stuff.
Yeah, because it's hard to make all this public, and I don't always share just the good stuff, but
right.
Sure. I share what I go through because that's the realities of the disease. And nobody is. It's not easy on anybody to just be an open book all the time. But that's what I try to do for people because transparency is what provides the awareness for what I'm going through. So everything that I share is public because you never know who it's going to reach. I probably get 20 to 50 messages a day from people all over the country that just reach out and got questions about ALS or their family members going through ALS or how did my symptoms start? How do I stay positive? Just different things. And I sit here with my eyes and try to field as many questions as I can.
Sarah, you're kind of like a rock star.
Right?
I mean,
you are.
I don't know. I don't know. I do my best.
Right?
I'd say so, and you're doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and she's such an inspiration to all these people, and you're touching lives, Sarah, that you don't even know, right? So I mean, keep up the great work, and we just so appreciate you hanging out with us. And we could stay here all day if there's anything else that you want to chat with about us.
We've only got 3 hours left.
Yes.
So
Yeah, we got 3 or 4 hours.
I might be tired by the end of
no
that.
doubt.
Right.
No doubt.
Right.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, make sure you go and follow Sarah to hear all about her stories and what she was just saying. More than anything, she's real.
Yep.
She's not just saying the good things. She's saying this is what her battle is and the good things and bringing light to so many. So find her on Facebook and Twitter. And are you also on Instagram?
Yep.
Yep. So Nauser is Nauser, Sarah with an H. What living the dream looks like. I think that's going to be the title of the show.
Right.
I like that. I like it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's your quote. You should like it.
Right.
I think that should be the book name too.
I think so too.
There it is.
I get a little credit in there for pushing you in that direction.
That's right. Joel's the one that pushed me to write the book. So
awesome.
And I've written 120 pages.
Good for you.
Holy smokes. That's fantastic.
So to go back and never in my life did I think I could ever write that much.
Right.
And it's hard to talk about yourself, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's really hard to write a book about yourself, but it's flowing right along and 120 pages in. So
that's fantastic. Well, we can't wait to see the completed product. So you just keep knocking that out.
Yep. Absolutely.
Maybe we'll have a book released by the end of the year. We'll see.
I like it.
Nice.
I like it. So June 2nd, that's Lou Gehrig's day.
Yep.
At the K. We've got September 14th. Be on the lookout for details for Sarah Nauser's golf tournament. Guys, this has been the Always Be Cool podcast with your hosts, Bobby Kerr, Darren Copeland, and today's very special guest, Sarah Nauser. Be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Make sure to check out IamALS.org for some awareness things. Also, personal note, check out my buddy's website, rosscaponetto.com, local Kansas City guy, great family who's going through a very similar battle. So
thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us. This has been all our pleasure, for sure.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. Hang on the line for a second, Sarah. We'll stop recording. And guys, always be cool. Take care.
Take care.
If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Darren and Bobby thank you from the bottom of their hearts.
They hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave them a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you're listening. Please share this episode with others who may be interested in our community.
Also, feel free to let DC and BK know which business or community leaders you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch in the comments or on social media. See you next time for a new episode. And remember, always be cool.
This podcast is powered by Summit Lending, NMLS number 1850081, Equal Housing Lender.